I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Geno TV and Channel 99. We have with us this morning a special guest, a newcomer to the island, the new principal of the new Nantucket Intermediate School, EvamarieMcNeil8. Welcome, Eva-Marie. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule these days to come talk to us.
Thank you for having me.
So you are new to the island. You
Yes.
are new to the school. The school
Yes.
is new.
Brand new.
What kind of have you ever opened a new school before?
No, this is my first time.
So what challenges are you finding in doing that?
Well, the exciting thing is I have lots of help. There are so many people who've worked so hard to bring the school to the point that it's at and ready to open. But some of the new challenges we have are thinking about things that you normally would already have in place. For example, how to evacuate the building during a fire drill, because that's not been done before. Things like that. So all the little nuances that go along with thinking about a new facility and the operations and procedures, those types of things.
Before we get into that anymore, let's talk about you and where you've been and why you came here and
Sure.
what you hope to accomplish while you're here.
Sure. So I am from Central Massachusetts. I've grown up and lived there pretty much my whole life, and I last worked for the Franklin Public Schools on 495, and I was the principal there for 5 years. Within those 5 years of 2 different elementary schools. Prior to that, I was a reading specialist, a special education teacher, and a classroom teacher in my career. So what brought me here, my husband was exploring the idea of coming out here to Nantucket for a new job opportunity, and as fate would have it, there was a principal opening just after his opening was published. So we actually went through process almost back to back, and it seems that the stars aligned and we're meant to be here. So it's very exciting for us to have these new opportunities.
Why the intermediate school is grades 4 through 6, right?
3 through 5.
3 through 5, sorry. 3 through 5. And the elementary school is now K through 2.
Actually pre-K to 2.
Pre-K to 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Why, I mean, other than the fact it's in 2 buildings, why do you think the school board and the superintendent felt it necessary to have a separate principal for the intermediate school, which is right next door to the elementary school?
Well, there are a lot of responsibilities that go along with being an administrator today. And one of the things also that I noticed was that there are about 720 students at the elementary school. That's a lot of children to get to know, a lot of families to come to know, a lot of staff. It's a lot of moving parts and people. And to really be effective, that's pretty big for an elementary school. I believe there are few elementary schools in our state that are that size. So I think that was a really good decision to in terms of numbers, to split the school and think about
staffing. Aside from the necessity of doing it.
Yes, aside from the building itself, but to grow, schools where you can really get to know your students and your staff and your families in a way that you can do some really robust work with professional development and such, and community. And
how many students will be in the intermediate school when it opens?
Sure. So it's a moving target as people are moving in and moving off island, but we're at roughly 375 students.
So slightly more than half, except the elementary classes are growing too. So
yes,
what could a student expect at the intermediate school that would be different from the elementary school? What would a third grader? How would a third grader be treated differently in an intermediate school than they would be in an elementary school?
That's an interesting question. I think as far as how they're treated, I think all students in all settings are treated with respect, and respect is expected of them back. So I think safe learning environments are consistent across all of the elementary schools. But in terms of the learning, teaching and learning, or what might be different in our new building, I know that our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are going to have access to Chromebooks. Every student will have access to a Chromebook as a tool to enhance their learning. which I think will be different than you would see at the pre-K to 2 level. That's really exciting that we have that technology available to us. And hopefully, as they're getting older, we're giving them more and more responsibility for their own learning and responsibility with regard to assisting with making decisions about how things run and operate and based on
and also interacting with their peers. There is maybe it's a small level of increased maturity, but there's some of that, isn't there?
Yes, but we today, you'd be surprised at the level of collaboration that's expected from pre-K to grade 5, and there's just more independence with it. But we're teaching I came from a K to 5 school where I've been for 5 years, so you'd be amazed at the collaboration work that happens in a kindergarten, a first, a second grade classroom. But you're right, as they get older, there's a lot more independence with that collaboration once those expectations are put into place.
Will the parents see any differences?
That's hard to answer because I'm new here, and so I don't know what their experience has been. So that I can't really say, but I'm assuming that there'll definitely be some differences because we're different. Our schools are different. Our leadership styles, though, have many similarities, but there may be some differences, and that would be a different experience.
When you were going through the interview process, what were there any particular challenges that were described to you, facing you, and that you would face in the job?
With regard to the job itself?
Yeah.
I think we want to be really mindful and cautious about taking a staff and students and families that have all been together and in one place for their whole elementary and intermediate history, and be really mindful about how we separate and thinking about where we can come together still, because that was one nice aspect, that you could grow with your school from preschool all the way through grade 5, and now there are 2 separate settings, but how do we maintain that collaboration so that people still feel connected to one another, staff, families, students?
English as a second language is a challenge for the Nantucket schools, because so many of the children are not native-born English speakers. Have you been in an environment like that before, where you've had the same level of challenge? Not the same level of challenge. Definitely been it's pretty common now in Massachusetts to all of our schools have English learners in them. But to this percentage of English learners will be new for me. So I'm excited that we've been working already with our new English language director who was hired, and she's really going to be instrumental. Is that just for the intermediate school, or for the district? And she's going to be great in supporting all of us as she brings all of her expertise and knowledge to the teachers and to the leadership, or how we can do an even better job with that. I know it's something that the schools have been working on for some time. If you were interviewing for a particular teaching position in the intermediate school. We've done that. Oh, I'm sure you have, but let me give you my hypothetical. And essentially 2 candidates were equal. Okay. In their qualifications and their presentation and so forth, but one of them was bilingual and one of them wasn't. Would the bilingual person get preference, all other things being equal? If everything else was equal, absolutely. I think it just makes sense that as much as we can encourage that, or if we have that opportunity to take advantage of it, as long as everything else is equal. I think that's great. Which is a big, tall order. But sure. Yes, that makes sense. Yeah. What other things do you have sort of on your agenda that you'd like to introduce to the school over time? Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things I know we want to work on together and collaboratively is building our culture as Nantucket Intermediate School. It's a new beginning for everybody, and we have to sort of define with our families and with our staff and our students who we are. So that's going to be on our agenda throughout this school year as kind of a top priority as we come together as a brand new school in a district that already exists. Having never had children in the school system myself, I'm not quite sure how this works, but the the Friends of the Nantucket Public Schools is essentially the PTA, right?
Yes, I've learned that.
Yeah, and I don't know, have they addressed the schools separately, or have they sort of been one group working with all the schools? And do you see any advantage of sort of having them set up a intermediate school chapter of the Friends of Nantucket Public Schools, especially in the context of the newness of the school and, as you say, trying to create the culture and so forth?
Yeah, so it's my understanding, I've asked this question, I'm used to having a school-based parent organization.
Right.
In Nantucket currently, the Friends of Nantucket Public Schools is more a district-based group. I would love a chapter of the Friends of Nantucket Public Schools because I always enjoyed working with my school-based team, and then they in turn with the larger group. So maybe that's something that we can talk to them about.
What else? What else do you have on your mind about the job?
Really, for this year, I think it's important to get to know everybody and build relationships. That's really the priority in year one, in addition to keeping everything running smoothly day to day and focusing on our curriculum work, which is always something we do every year. But this year is really about building relationships with folks and establishing trust. And when we do that, we can really make gains and move forward.
How about the transition for you and your husband to Nantucket? How's that been?
Well, so far it's been so busy. Like sometimes I forget I'm on an island because you work a lot, and and that looks the same wherever you are. Go from home to work and back.
You're both in new jobs.
We're both in new jobs,
which is unusual for many people who move here, because one member of the couple has a job and the other one is sort of struggling to find one.
Yes.
Which makes it a little tougher.
So that's been easy for us, luckily.
And have you enjoyed it to the extent you've been able to get past the street from the school to your house?
I know, right?
Have you enjoyed it at all?
Yes, I found some I've been visiting some really beautiful spots on the island. There's so much more for me to explore and get to know. I'm anxious to do that, but it's going to happen over time.
You have children, right?
I have 3 children.
But they're older.
I have a 20-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 17-year-old.
So the 17-year-old will be here?
He is going to be a senior in high school, but that's a very difficult year to transition. So he's going to stay in Shrewsbury and finish his senior year. Yep. Yeah. We'll miss him, but he's got me calling him every day now because he's already gone. But we had a beautiful summer all together here. It was so nice to have everybody together.
And your older two are in college somewhere?
They go to Syracuse University, both of them, and they're heading out on Friday. Yeah.
It's that time of year.
It's that time of year. Yeah.
What would you hope, from your own personal standpoint and your career standpoint, that this location and this island and this Nantucket Intermediate School would mean for you?
Oh, wow. I'm just really excited to be part of the community that I work in. I haven't had that in 5 years. I used to. So
living in a different town, you mean?
Yes. Yeah. So I had a 30 or so minute commute the last 5 years, and as much as you try, it's not the same as living and working in the same place. So I'm really excited to have that opportunity.
I would think that would have some drawbacks too.
It does, and I've experienced those as a teacher, at parent conferences on the soccer fields, for example. But I think the benefits outweigh that greatly in the sense of really feeling part of the community, understanding the community, knowing the community, and working side by side with your parents, your students, your teachers.
Nantucket is a microcosm of the world's problems in some respects, and I'm sure they show up in the schools as much as anywhere else. Have you had a chance to sort of look at the support systems for families here, and what is your initial reaction?
I am amazed at how many organizations there actually are, and how generous those organizations are in terms of supporting families and the schools in general and students. There are so many community partners available to us. It's overwhelming.
Is there a message you'd like to leave with for the parents and the students who are coming to your school?
Yeah, I'd absolutely tell them to get ready for a very exciting year, and we can't wait to see them all.
Was it September 4th?
5th.
5th.
Yeah,
Tuesday,
September 5th.
5th, yeah.
We welcome everybody, and yep.
Great. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Eva Marie McNeil.